Greenwald was recently in an interview with Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly brings on interesting people from time to time. But going into this, I want you to think about the fact that AOC was one of those people that Glenn did interview. So there were 2 interviews, if I remember. She interviewed with Jimmy Dore and she interviewed with Glenn Greenwald. When I interviewed Glenn, I did ask him, like, did he believe her back then? And he said, yeah, he did. But he said it's just as crazy how all these people have changed, right? So those of us who have left the duopoly and are supporting Greens or independents, we faced a lot of criticism from those who are still in the duopoly, right? Of course. In this particular interview, they're discussing Cornel West. And I got to give props to Glenn for this, for defending Cornel West, but also at the same time, calling out the BS that is coming from what's left of Bernie's movement, and including Bernie Sanders himself. And I say that because it's really not easy for everybody to do. Most people in this space are not doing it. Most people in this space are still trying to give some type of hope for the squad because this is all they know. And it's just the reality. There are a lot of people that are in this space. They started right after Bernie's first campaign, right? Or during Bernie's first campaign. And this is what they know, the Bernie progressive thing, you know, vote for the Democratic Party, et cetera. And doing something different can be scary for them mentally, but also financially. Let's just be real. Because if your audience is mainly that Democrat vote blue, no matter who crowd, and you flip on them, then yes, that can affect you. But what's more important? Having morals and principles and sticking by what you believe in reference to the policies, or just trying to maintain an audience? There's been time people flipped on me. There's been time I've gained. There's been times I've lost, but I still keep it real. And I think that's more important. So here is Glenn in this discussion with Megyn Kelly, being a staunch defender here for Cornel West. And you got to love it. We're going to end with a good story.
They're getting interesting. There's like a little smoke coming up in the ranks in the Dems. And I'm not speaking about RFKJ or Marianne Williamson. Bernie Sanders and Cornel West. What do you make of, well, get the audience up to speed on what they've been doing and why they've become a little bit more interesting as we look forward to 2024, even though we're assured Biden's running for a second term.
See, for all the people, even Megyn Kelly is talking about this. So for all the people who continue to say, don't worry about third party, it's a waste of time, no one's going to pay attention to Cornel West anyway. Sure are a lot of people paying attention to him. Everybody's talking about Cornel West. Let's continue.
Well, so first of all, Cornel West is just one of the more interesting people in our cultural life. He's incredibly well-spoken. He's a learned person. He's been in academic institutions. I think he's extremely smart. I've talked to him a lot. I really believe that. He's been very widely respected his whole life. He wrote a book called Race Matters in the 1990s. That's considered by a lot of people one of the most profound intellectual works on race. And aside from that, he was a very close friend of Bernie Sanders. He was a vigorous supporter of the Sanders campaign, both in 2016 and 2020 when Bernie ran for president. Cornel West has always been a left-wing critic of the Democratic Party. He's never liked the Democratic Party, but he's kind of maintained like one foot inside of it, the way Bernie used to pretend to do. Now Cornel West thinks both parties are equally terrible, that he can't support either, and he's running as a third-party candidate with the Green Party, the way Jill Stein did in 2016. And one major problem for the Democrats is that he is a very respected Black intellectual, very popular among a lot of Black voters on whom Democrats rely in every election to win. But he's also somebody I think people are going to start to see who has this ability to speak to working class people in a way that makes them feel like they're not hearing stale left-wing dogma. He's exciting, he's charismatic, he's funny, he's very human, he produces music, he sings, he'll break into song in the middle of interviews like he did when I had him on my show. And I think he poses a huge threat to the Democratic Party, because even if you take 2 or 3% from Joe Biden, that obviously can make a difference in the way our elections are run. And the amazing thing is, Megan, that Bernie Sanders his entire life has prided himself on his independence from the Democratic Party. Literally, he's never been a member of the Democratic Party. Even now, he's an independent senator. He doesn't belong to either party technically, even though he caucuses with the Democrats. So for them to send out, of all people, Bernie Sanders to attack Cornel West, and for Bernie to be willing to do it, to attack his good friend, someone who supported him for many years, shows that there is no more internal dissent within the Democratic Party. I was in Milwaukee. Everybody who watched that debate saw the incredibly intense ideological and political conflicts the Republican Party has internally, which I think is very healthy.
Let me pause here for a second in reference to what he said about Bernie Sanders. It's the lowest of the low. And I believe that's what happened. I think Dem leadership told Bernie Sanders to get out on the ground again and go around the country and tell people why they got to support Joe Biden. Turn against your friend. And Bernie Sanders would do it. This is why you need to ask this question, guys. Do you guys actually think Bernie Sanders was actually going to fight against Big Pharma? Think about it.
Democrats are in total lockstep, including the parts of the party that pretended for a long time to be defiant and rebellious. Bernie's catchphrase in 2016 was "our revolution." The revolutionary, the radical revolutionary, is now Joe Biden's chief party enforcer, to the point of being willing publicly to exploit his old fake persona to attack Cornel West. And I don't know. I think that's going to alienate a lot of people more than it's going to persuade them.
Oh, so interesting to hear you explain that. Okay, so here's a bit of Cornel West going on Charlemagne's show, The Breakfast Club, on August 7th, talking about Bernie Sanders. Take a listen here. Sade.
I love the brother, and you know, even in love, people have deep disagreements about these things. But I think, again, he's fearful of the neo-fascism of Trump. People look at Biden, they don't really want to tell the full truth. He's created the best economy that we can get. Is this the best that we can get? You're going to tell that lie to the people just for Biden to win?
And see, that's the piece right there that Bernie Sanders, Bernie was basically caught in a lie. And when I talked about that conversation back then, when they played this clip to Bernie Sanders, when he was on the interview on CNN, what I forgot to mention during that segment is that Bernie Sanders was caught in a lie on national television. And yes, that was exactly what Bernie said. So you can't know. Can you trust Bernie? Said the hell to the no. But the point that I'm trying to make to you guys is this. If the Democratic Party sent Bernie Sanders to go out again, once again in New Hampshire and tell people that we need a party that works for the people and you got to push back against the Dem establishment. But in the same week, he told people you got to back Joe Biden so that we don't get, the fascist right wing or whatever. Bernie Sanders is trying to talk out both sides of his mouth. But also what that shows you about Bernie Sanders is that if he will bend the knee to Democrat establishment, then not only is he weak, but two, he was never going to fight back against corporate greed. He was never going to fight back against these pharmaceutical companies, because the moment he tried to, Democrat leadership would tell him not to do it. So do you guys still sit here and think that Bernie Sanders actually would have tried to give us Medicare for all? No, because Dem leadership would not allow that to happen. So you see, what I'm trying to say is Bernie Sanders was playing people the whole damn time. Some people don't believe that. Some people say he had good intentions from the beginning. Yeah, whatever. When you had good intentions from the beginning, compared to what he's doing right now, whatever he planned in the beginning don't mean anything to me anymore. I don't care. I don't care if you had good intentions in the beginning. It's kind of like, say you in a relationship and you're married, and let's say, we'll use it from a female perspective. Let's say your husband not only cheats on you, but has a kid by the woman he cheated on you with, and then leaves you for the woman to go start a whole family with them, but then things don't work out, and then he want to come back to you and say, let's try again. And what if he comes to you, and these things do happen, by the way. And what if he comes to you and he says, I never meant to cheat. It just kind of happened. I didn't know she was going to get pregnant. You're right. I should have never left. When we got married, I had good intentions in the beginning. Would you take him back? Hells no. So think about that. So for the people to tell me he had good intentions, none of that matters. None of that matters the way he sold out his friend. He sold out Cornel West. He caved the knee to Joe Biden, bent the knee to Joe Biden, made excuses for Democrat establishment, made excuses for the Ukraine funding. He even bent the knee when Joe Biden told him not to mention that Yemen bill in the Senate because if he did, it was not going to pass. So he caved on that. So do I think that Bernie Sanders, looking back on it, actually would have fought for Medicare for all? Hells to the no. Bernie's showing you who he really is right now. Something to think about.
Okay. And then, as you point out comes Bernie Sanders with a response directed at Cornel West at 9.
Where I disagree with my good friend, Cornel West, is I think in these really very difficult times.
Hold on. Jen Ho says, bad example, childless 30-something women are out of options. Who said the woman was in her 30s? I know plenty of women pregnant in their 20s. I know plenty of women that have had this situation happen that are in their 20s.
Where there is a real question whether democracy is going to remain in the United States of America. I think we have got to bring the entire progressive community to defeat Trump or whoever the Republican nominee will be.
Okay, and then one more for you. Cornel West went on Rising with, The Hill and had an interesting POV that we should play. Take a listen, Sat 10.
Brother Bernie's making a plausible.
Hold on. I got to say something else to that 30-something comment because I just realized something. You were basically saying, where's that comment at, Eric? You were basically saying, bad example, childless 30-something women are out of options. So you're basically saying that women in their 30s don't have, they can't get many options? They can. They can. Come on, Jinho. Come on. Let's do better. Let's do better. I know women in their 30s who are single and they're living their best life. Let's do better here. I don't like that, Jinho. I don't like it. And to be honest with you, I'm gonna keep it real. Let me go back here for a little bit. I don't know what's happening there, Jinho. I don't like that. And I'm married, by the way. I'm married, by the way. But the reality is, things get better as you get older. I don't have to go into detail here, but the adults in the house, you know what I'm talking about. Things get a lot better as you get older. Let's continue.
Trump or whoever the Republican nominee will be.
Okay, and then one more for you. Cornel West went on Rising with, The Hill and had an interesting POV that we should play. Take a listen, Sat 10.
Brother Bernie's making a plausible argument, but I think deep down in his heart, he knows that the Democratic Party has no fundamental intention of speaking to the needs of poor people and working people. He and AOC and the others are going to be, in a certain sense, window dressing at worst and at best, people to appeal to every 4 years.
So, Glenn, Cornel West is not persuaded by the Bernie message of we've got to get the entire Democratic Party unified and on board to defeat the fascist Trump.
I have to say, Megan, like Bernie Sanders, it's sad to watch because he is a politician for whom I had personal respect. I think a lot of people, even people who don't like his ideology in Washington, will say whatever you want to say about Bernie. He has integrity in the sense that he's always true to his principles. What he's doing now is so despicable because in 2016, this is exactly the argument that was made against Bernie Sanders was, look, we have this Hitler-like menace in Donald Trump. This is not a time to have infighting within the Democratic Party. You're threatening American democracy by running against Hillary Clinton and damaging her. And to this day, a lot of them blame Bernie Sanders for sabotaging Hillary Clinton in the general election. And beyond that, Megan, people don't want to face the fact in the Democratic Party that it isn't people like me saying this. It's people like Elizabeth Warren and Donna Brazile, the former chairwoman of the DNC, who said that in 2016, the Democrats cheated. They rigged the election in order.
Let me just pause here for a second and we'll get back to the whole DNC fraud lawsuit. That point that Glenn just made there about people blaming Bernie Sanders for the reason why Hillary Clinton lost. See, everyone keeps mentioning Jill Stein now, but for those of us who remember back then, they blame Bernie Sanders and Bernie supporters as well for the reason why Hillary Clinton lost. And one thing that I want to add is that also goes to show you for the people who are saying that Cornel West should just run through the Democratic Party because he's going to be shamed or he's going to be blamed. He's going to be vilified, as Crystal said, as a third party candidate. And his supporters will be as well. Well, first of all, nobody has to know who the hell you voted for. So there's that. But number two, I will say, actually, no, because if Cornel West ran through the Democratic Party, he would be blamed if Joe Biden lost, just like Bernie Sanders was blamed when Hillary Clinton lost. I'll throw in other names too, because see, people starting to not really talk about Marianne no more. And I'm going to say this as well. Marianne Williamson or RFK Jr., they're going to do the same thing to them too. Mark my words. If Joe Biden loses in 2024, they're not just going to blame the Cornel West supporters. They're also going to blame the people who supported RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson. Watch. Wait for it.
To ensure that Bernie lost and that Hillary won and that she would win no matter what. And so to watch Bernie now turn around to the same party that refuses to hold any presidential debates, to declare Joe Biden the winner, even though he has two primary challengers before a single vote is cast, that cheated and rigged the election when he ran, and to pretend now that the Democrats are the only guardians of democracy without whom we will no longer be a democracy. And not only that, but to do so by attacking Cornel West, someone who's supposed to be his friend, in such harsh terms, I think is really grotesque. And look, you saw Cornel West in that clip. I mean, it's not hard to understand why Democrats, the last poll showed 20% of Black Americans are saying they're going to vote for Donald Trump. Maybe that was an outlier, but no question, Trump has attracted more and more non-white voters the more he stayed in public life. And if you have someone like Cornel West going and saying that stuff that he just said, Democrats don't care about the working class, they don't care about the poor, that is not something that Democrats want. And I don't think they believe they can persuade Cornel West to stop. And so they've launched this repulsive campaign trying to depict him as a deadbeat dad, as a tax cheat. Like, what's next? Drug dealer?
That's right. And you guys have seen it. And that's what we were saying. You see the racist tropes that's coming from the Democratic Party. That's coming from the Democratic Party, calling them all these different, like, stereotypical smears against Cornel West. You see this? That's coming out. So what they tried to do is they tried to say, Dr. West, all these people that interviewed him, Dr. West, why not go as a Democrat? Dr. West, why not run through the Democratic Party? Dr. West, why not do this? Listen, that was the original plan. They said, let's try to see if we can get him to move to the Democratic Party. That didn't work. So now they got to send out the attack dogs. And the first attack dog they send out is Bernie Sanders. Why are you guys still talking about this women in the 30s thing? What in the world? What is wrong, Fox Body Blues? Things are better for women as they age and are married, not single and childless. I don't know about that, Fox Body Blues. I don't know about that. I know single women who disagree with you, who disagree. I don't know. That might need to be a whole other conversation. Let's continue.
Yeah.
It really shows just how craven these people are.
The Daily Beast had a piece up this month. Cornel West owes more than $500,000 in unpaid taxes. They went and pulled public records from New Jersey and California, claiming he owes the IRS $543,000 in outstanding federal tax liens. I don't know what the circumstances of all this are, but they're happy to come after him because he actually may be siphoning votes off from their dear leader. And Joe Biden cannot afford to lose any votes, never mind votes within the Black community. Why do you think he moved South Carolina up first for the Democratic primary? It's a reward to Jim Clyburn and for South Carolina for essentially helping him become the Democratic nominee. He cannot lose the Black vote, period.
And more people need to talk about that, by the way, what Megan just said. More people need to talk about how they moved up South Carolina. I know we talked about it when they first announced it, but I think we need to continue to mention that message, all the things that they're trying to do to make it so that Joe Biden wins. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And again, for the people that say, well, I'm not doing anything, any favors for a politician to get anything in return, bullshit. Because you see that Jim Clyburn did tell people in South Carolina, we're going to support Joe Biden. People came out to support Joe Biden because some people, not all, but some people in South Carolina, having lived there, think that Jim Clyburn is their leader, even though he lives in like the poorest district in South Carolina, but he's not poor. And then in return, what happens? They try to move up South Carolina as the first state in the primary. So we got to keep mentioning that, what the Democratic Party is doing.
But they are losing the Black vote. I mean, there's going to obviously be the most unified and concerted push on behalf of every powerful Democratic, behalf of every powerful institution in this country outside of a few media companies and others. But in general, the entire power center in the United States is going to be united behind Joe Biden. The propaganda campaign launched against the American people will be unlike anything we've ever seen before. Remember, in 2016, the FBI concocted a fake Russiagate scandal. In 2020, the CIA lied to voters right before the vote by telling them the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, which was a complete and utter lie that the corporate media spread. That shows the extent, the lengths to which they're willing to go to try and win this election. So there's going to be a huge propaganda push, but I think a lot of Black voters are coming to the realization that Democrats love Black voters as long as Black voters do what Democrats tell them to do. And that is not something that most people want to accept.
Yes. So this is from early August. The Trump campaign highlighted an Emerson College poll out of Michigan showing Trump and Biden tied, each with 44%. And when Cornel West was added as a choice, Joe Biden lost the state of Michigan to Trump. 43% for Trump, 41% for Biden. West got 4% of the vote. They can't have it. They cannot have it. He doesn't have it to spare. He did not win in any sort of a landslide last time around, meaning Joe Biden. He needs every single vote. And Cornel West could be a very interesting spoiler.
And you know what? Michigan will be close again. It'll be tight again. It'll be tight again. And I wanted to show you this. See, they're getting scared. Shout out to Case Study QB here. They're getting really afraid, guys. We're going to end with this clip here. Liberals raise alarms calling on Biden to sharpen re-election progressive pitch. Listen to this. This is the scare here. And they're going to bring up Cornel West.
Student loan forgiveness was among the big issues that progressives wanted to see from the Biden administration. But now there's some concern among left-leaning Democrats that the Biden re-election campaign isn't focused enough on an ambitious second-term agenda. Joining us now to talk about that is White House bureau chief for the Washington Post, Tolu Olurunnipa. Tolu, great to see you, my friend. Your new story is titled "Liberals Raise Alarms, Calling on Biden to Sharpen Re-Election Pitch." So tell us a little bit more about that. Your story runs with a photo of Senator Bernie Sanders, who just dropped in on the White House earlier this week. It is sort of a political maxim that, re-election bids and candidates tend to drift towards the center as the election approaches. But what has the progressives here so alarmed?
What we heard from Senator Sanders over the weekend in New Hampshire and on the Sunday shows, including Meet the Press, and he was essentially telling the president that the president needs to focus more on a liberal, ambitious agenda, a clear agenda for a second term. We've heard the president spending a lot of time over the last couple of weeks talking about what he's already done, talking about Bidenomics, talking about sort of all of the things that have worked for his administration over the past couple of years. but less discussion of what he would do if he gets another 4 years. And a number of progressives are saying that Biden needs to focus more on that and focus more on the fact that people are still struggling, even in the Bidenomics world where we do have low unemployment and we do have jobs seeming to come back at a pretty steady clip.
Notice how he's kind of stuttering over that a little bit, the low unemployment and the jobs, because they're not telling the full truth about that. They're not explaining that people were kicked off of unemployment by the Biden administration. So obviously, if you remove people, the numbers are going to decrease. This is not to say that people have not gained jobs. People have gained jobs, but you also need to add in the other piece to that equation. These people were lying on purpose. Notice how he was kind of stuttering over it a little bit.
There are still people that are struggling with inflation, struggling to put food on the table. And as Biden pivots to the middle on some issues, a number of progressives feel that may leave an opening for their voters to either stay home or to go to a third party candidate, someone like Cornel West, who is pitching himself as a champion of liberal causes.
First of all, Cornel West is not pitching himself as a champion of liberal causes. Cornel West is a progressive. They like to lump everybody in one category. But notice what he mentioned there. People are looking at other options, right? Now, this woman that comes in, watch this, guys. This is funny.
So this happens a lot, and you know, as Lemire said in the intro to you, that there's a sense that.
Why is she so nervous? Let me go back. Hold on. Why is she so nervous? Watch. Right after he mentions Cornel West, watch this.
Stay home or to go to a third party candidate, someone like Cornel West, who is pitching himself as a champion of liberal causes.
So this happens a lot, and you know, as Lemire said in the intro to you, that there's a sense that a candidate in re-election move.
Oh man,
the center, and that there's a pull from, you know, in this case, the left to be more progressive. But I think that, you know, say more about some of the issues that Senator Sanders said that the White House should be more aggressive on, because if it's inflation and wage inequality, climate change, things like that, these are things that the American people really want action on too. I don't know that necessarily this is a case where what the progressives want are going to be at odds with the rest of America.
Honey, if you in trouble, blink twice, because I don't know if she was just nervous or what, but she struggled to get that out. And even look at the expression on her face. She struggled to get that out when we're talking about progressive, or we're talking about, you know, this idea of, you know, voting for a third party candidate. She struggled, honey. So if you need help, blink.
Yeah, and I should also include that Senator Sanders said both in his speech and on his media appearances that President Biden has every right to be proud of his record. His record includes a number of progressive wins on things like climate change, the Inflation Reduction Act, on things like the economy and jobs, and all of the things that have happened over the past couple of years.
Notice they don't give you any details, though, when they say those things. And he said like the economy and jobs. Didn't he just tell us prior to this statement that people are struggling with inflation? But then he goes on to say the president has things to be proud about, like the economy. As if inflation is not a part of the economy. They all say the same thing. They all got the same talking points.
In a divided Congress, a number of progressives have given Biden credit for that. But they say that there needs to be more done as we put on an agenda for the next term. Things like, free universal health care, things like universal pre-K and child care, the things.
Free universal health care. Hold up. He's about to lie. Hold on. Watch. I'm going to show you something. Watch this.
As we put on an agenda for the next term, things like, free universal health care, things like universal pre-K and child care, the things that Biden campaigned on and things that were originally in the Build Back Better agenda that he wanted to get through Congress, but were blocked by some conservative Democrats in the Senate.
Universal health care was not on the original Build Back Better. He said the things that were originally on Build Back Better and the things that Biden wanted to get done. 2, Biden never wanted to get universal health care done. He's been very vocal about this from day one. that if that Medicare for All bill came across his desk, he would veto it. He's not going to sign that into law. See how they're just lying to the people? And if you're not paying attention and like say you were doing something else and you're not really paying attention to everything that's being said, that can just go by you like, whew, just like that. Because let me know, because I went through the Build Back Better bill on this show, and I sure as hell can tell you there was no universal health care in that bill. And I can tell you Biden never wanted to do it as a part of his own plan either. I don't know which was worse, her or him, but they were both nervous, shaky, kind of like, I guess that's what happens when you're about to lie. I'm gonna go to the comments here. Thank you for the super chat, Skeptic. Where is BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street with their diversity, equity, and inclusion with all the money they have? You should be building all kinds of affordable housing if they want to stand up to their mantra. BlackRock is too busy buying those houses and renovating them and increasing the price so that the average American can't afford to purchase it as a single family home. Thank you, Frank. The hope of a political revolution. Oh, Ryan playing step and fetch it. Boot says West has already been on multiple MSM outlets and he's not even the Green nominee yet. That's true. RT says, Sabby, I'm not going to flip on you, but I saw you in an interview with Glenn after you interviewed Dr. Shiva, and you didn't ask him why he ignored Shiva's lawsuit. Why? Because I wasn't interviewing him. He was interviewing me. He was interviewing me about a particular subject. I can still ask him about that. Thank you, 007 Angelo. Dems are terrified West will take Black voters. Lauren says, Bernie and his movement was strong. When he turned his back, that broke my heart. AOC is disappointing, but kind of understandable. Thank you, Roger. Bernie went from being a dim socialist to a liberal. See how that works? Thanks, Cool Blue. DNC survey asked if the Democrats should hold Republicans accountable. Democrats refuse to hold themselves accountable. In their minds, they don't legitimately lose elections. Good point. Thank you, Luis. I'm 56, single, no kids. My life is perfection. My niece and nephews are prepared to take care of me. Get over yourself. I love my life. You do your damn thing, Louise. You do the damn thing. David says more Black Americans need to be reminded how much harm Biden has done to their communities through his policies in the 40 plus years he's been in politics. Bingo. That's true. Thank you, Marvin. World War III, Biden becomes wartime president, freeze election. Thank you, Roger. Yo, who's this fake Don Cornelius looking mofo? Oh my God, Roger. Yikes. And thank you for this as well. Is that Jen Palmieri, who worked for Hillary in 2016? I think that's who that was. That looked like her. Thank you so much for that.